Yes, sir.
All right, I'll be right back.
Okay, we're going to start this session. This will be the review for Test 1, Chapter 3 and 4 from our text. So again, this is our Test 1 review coming from Chapters 3 and 4 of our textbook. Alright, starting off, problem number 1, ask to graph the equation. With this problem, I would basically use slope-intercept form to try to solve this, graph this equation. So slope-intercept form, I want to get the y by itself, so I subtract 2x from both sides. That gives me 9y. Alright, 9y equals a negative 2x plus 27, and then I divide everything by 9. So I would end up with y equals negative 2/9 x plus 3. Alright, so I know my first point is going to be at a positive 3. Alright, plus 3 is positive 3. So I go from the origin up 1, up 2, up 3. Make my first dot. Alright, and then because my slope is negative, that's saying to either go down 2 and right 9, or to go up 2 and left 9. Alright, either one of these options would be fine as far as counting off your slope. For me, I'm going to go down and right from my initial point. So I'm going to go down 2, right? I'm going to go down 2 and right 9 from my initial point. So down 1, 2. Okay, then over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that puts me right there. Connect the dots. Alright, I know it's not a perfectly straight line, but you get the idea. So in this case, A would be the answer. Alright. So I'll move on to number 2. Okay, number 2. Ask us to graph. Now, for whatever reason, the answer choices, multiple choice answer choices, didn't print out, so we would just graph this one anyway. And for me, because it's in standard form means the x and the y are together on one side, constant on the other side. In other words, ax plus by equals c. That's standard form, x and y together, constant on the other side, x and y together, constant is on the other side. So when you're using this form, standard form, to graph, you find your x-intercept and you find your y-intercept. Remember, intercept means that the point exists on that axis. So an x-intercept means the point, whatever point I come up with, is going to exist on the x-axis. Y-intercept means the point is going to exist on the y-axis. So for x-intercept, we make y0 and find x. For y-intercept, we make x0 and find y. So if I make y0 to find x for my x-intercept, if y is 0, then basically the y disappears and I just have x equals 7. X equals 7. So my point would be 7 for the x, 0 for the y. So I come to my x-axis, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, make a point. There's my x-intercept. It's on the x-axis. Now for the y. Okay. For the y, now I make x0 and solve for y. So if I make x0, it's like saying that x disappears and I'm just left with y equals 7. So that would be 0 for x, 7 for y. So there's my point there. So I go to the y-axis and count up a positive 7, which would be right here. Connect the dots. There's your graph. Notice I put the arrowheads on both ends to show that that line goes on forever in both directions. That would be your graph. Again, the multiple choice answers didn't print out, so this will be one you just worked out. Alright, so that was 2. Number 3. Number 3, y equals 3x. So that's like saying y equals 3x plus 0, because there is nothing after the 3x, so that's like saying plus nothing. So your slope is 3, and your b, which is y-intercept, is 0. Alright, so slope and your y-intercept. Alright, so you make your first point at your b, which is your y-intercept, which is 0 on the y-axis. There it is. Your slope is rise over run, so if it's a whole number, 3, that's like saying 3 over 1, rise over run. So that means I go up and right. So from my first point, go up 1, 2, 3, then over 1 to the right, up 1, 2, 3, over 1 to the right. There's the second point, and make the line. Alright, so in this case, this is problem number 3. The answer would be choice B, if I'm not mistaken. Alright, let's see. Be choice B. Let me scroll down and double check. Alright, yes, so for number 3, choice B looks like it's right, okay? Because if you notice, we said B was 0, and right there, that's 0, go up 1, up 2, up 3, over 1, and there you go, you're still on the line. Alright, so the answer would be B. Moving on. Okay, number 4. Alright, problem number 4 is also in standard form. Okay, so me personally, when I'm doing standard form, I like my x term to be positive, so I will multiply everything by a -1 to change all my signs, and that would give me a 9x minus y equals a positive 5. Alright, standard form, x and y together, constants on the other side. Alright, well, actually, let's scratch that. Alright, let's go with slope-intercept again. So we want to put this one in slope-intercept form. Alright, so if we want this in slope-intercept form, we add 9x to both sides. Alright, add 9x to both sides, that cancels. And so I end up with y equals a 9x minus a 5. There's my slope-intercept. There's my slope. There's my y-intercept. So I make my first point at -5 on the y, because that's my y-intercept. So -5 on the y, there it is. Now my 9 is my slope, and 9 is like saying 9 over 1. So that's up and right. So from the -5 we'll go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and over 1. So that puts me right there. Alright. So I'm looking at a graph that would look something like that. Okay, so in this case, number 4, the answer would be D. Let's see. Yeah, D looks like what we had. Alright, so D would be the proper answer. Okay. Moving on. Number 5. Graph by finding the x and y intercepts. So this is telling us we have to now use standard form for graphing. Alright, because anytime they ask for both intercepts, that means standard form. Alright, anytime they ask for both intercepts, we use standard form. So in this case, I find my x-intercept by making y 0. If y is 0, if y is 0, 0 times 12 is 0. So that would disappear, and you just have 6x equals 12. And so x would be 2. And your point would be 2, 0 for x-intercept. For y-intercept, for the y-intercept, you would now make x 0, so 0 times 6 would be 0, so that would disappear. So that means you would be left with negative 12y equals 12. So in this case, y would equal a negative 1, so you'd have 0. Negative 1 is a point. So you go for your x-intercept on the x-axis over 2, 0. Y-intercept on the y-axis down 1. And then connecting the dots, there you have it. That would be your graph for number 5. And the answer to number 5 is D. D. Alright. D would be our answer. Okay. Alright, number 6. Still graphing the equation. Alright, the fact that it says x equals negative 2, anytime x equals a number, I know it's going to be a vertical line. Well, let me draw a vertical line. Anytime x equals a number, I'm going to have a vertical line straight up and down through whatever the number is. So in this case, if x is negative 2, I go to negative 1, negative 2 on the x, that is negative 2, and then I just make a vertical line through there. Alright, so in this case, it's A. There you have it. Negative 1, negative 2. Vertical line. X is negative 2. Okay. Moving on. Y is 3. Alright. Y is 3. Anytime y equals a number, it gives me a horizontal line through the number. So in this case, the number is 3, right? Anytime y equals a constant, I guess is another way to say it. Y equals a constant, or in the previous problem, if x equals a constant. In this case, y equals a constant, gives you a horizontal line through that constant. In this case, it's 3. So x is 1, x is 2, y is 1, y is 2, y is 3. So a horizontal line through that constant. And there you have it. And that would be C. Let's take a look. Alright, so C. Alright, if you notice, y is 1, y is 2, y is 3, horizontal line. So C is the proper answer. Alright. Number 8 here says find the slope of the line that goes through the points. Well, we know slope equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So my x1, y1, x2, y2. So y2, which is my 6 minus y1, which is a negative 8. So minus a negative means plus 8 over x2, which is a negative 8, minus a negative, which is my x1, a negative 5 becomes plus. So that gives me 14 over a negative 3. So the answer choice would be B, negative 14 thirds. Okay. Alright, number 9. Okay, number 9. Doing the same thing. M equals y2 minus y1 over x of 2 minus x of 1. So that's going to be negative 3 minus a negative over a negative 9 minus a 4. That gives me 0 over a negative 13. 0 over anything is just 0. So number 9 is B. Excuse me. Number 10. Still plugging into this formula here. So now you have y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which gives me a negative 4 over 0. Anytime you have 0 in the denominator, alright, you get undefined for an answer. So for number 10, the answer should be A, undefined. Alright, moving on. Number 11. Okay. So I need to determine the slope. It says use the points shown on the graph to determine the slope of the line. So for number 11, it's asking for slope. Okay. So if I want slope, all I need to do is find 2 points on the line. Here's a point here. Okay. So yeah, here's a point right here. Here's another point right here. So all we got to do is count up 1, 2, 3. So we went up 3. So that's our rise. Up 3 means positive 3. And then from here, we go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we went up 1, 2, 3. Then we went over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we went right 7. And because we went right 7, it's a positive 7. Alright, so for number 11, your answer should be 3 over 7. Alright, which is D. Okay, 12, you're looking at your graph, right, to find the slope. And we already know that a vertical line means that your slope is undefined. Alright, now a way to prove it is slope equals rise over run. Right, here's a way to prove it. Now, I can pick any point on this line. So let's just say I pick the point right here. Or better yet, here I can pick this point right here, which is actually an x-intercept. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that point would be 5, 0 that I just picked. This point right here. 5, 0. Now, slope is rise over run. So I want to go from one point to another point. Well, here's another point that was given to us right here. So to go from here to here, from here to here, I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? I went up 6. So because I went up 6, my rise is a positive 6. Now, run. When I went up 6, I'm on the point. So I can't go right, I can't go left, so my run is 0. And we already said anytime 0 is in the denominator of a fraction, undefined is your answer. Okay? So for number 12, your answer should be undefined. $13. Alright, it's a horizontal line. 13 is a horizontal line. And we know horizontal lines have a slope of 0. But just to prove it, slope is rise over run. So if I'm going from one point to another point, rise. To get from this point to this point, I can't go up, I can't go down to get from this point to this point. I can't go up, I can't go down to get to this point. So rise is 0. Now I run over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then another 5, 6, 7. So I ran like I think about 14. But because you have a 0 on the top, the slope is 0. Alright. 14, find the slope of the line. Okay. You're given an equation, they want you to find the slope. It's in standard form. You want to put it in slope-intercept form. Alright, because whatever falls out in the M position, that will be your slope. So in this case, we'd want to subtract 3x from both sides. So that would give me 5y minus 3x. Oh, excuse me. Let me erase. Getting ahead of myself. Alright. So that would give me 5y equals a negative 3x minus 19. Alright. Then I would, to get y by itself, divide everything by 5. And so I see here my slope, my M, is negative 3/5. Negative 3/5. So the answer to number 14 is B, negative 3/5. Number 15, I do the same thing. To find the slope of the line, if I'm given an equation, I want to put this equation into slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. So in this case, I need y by itself, so I add 4x to both sides. So that gives me 5y equals 4x plus 34. Then I would divide everything by 5. And so I have y equals 4/5 x plus 34 over 5. But all I really care about is my slope, my M, which in this case is 4/5. So for number 15, the answer is C, 4/5. Alright, 16. Find the slope and the y-intercept. Alright, doing the same thing basically. But now you want the slope and the y-intercept, so you want the M and the B. Okay, so you want the slope and the y-intercept. Alright, so put it in slope-intercept form. You need the slope and you need the y-intercept. Alright, you need those two things. So in standard form, I'd move my x over, so that would give me a negative 2y equals a negative 5x minus 23. I'd divide everything by a negative 2, and that would give me a positive 5 over 2, because a negative 5 divided by a negative 2 is a positive. Alright, and that'd give me a plus 23 over 2. Alright, so my slope is that. Slope is not 5 over 2x, it's just a 5 over 2. And then my b, my y-intercept is that. Alright, so for number 16, the answer is C. Slope is 5 over 2, b is 23 over 2. Alright, 17, excuse me. 17, still going for slope-intercept form. Get my y by itself, so I should subtract 5 from both sides. Alright, and that gives me 3y equals x minus 5. Divide everything by 3. So this x over 3 is like saying 1/3 x. X over 3 is like saying 1/3 x minus 5 over 3. Alright, so my slope and my y-intercept, my M and my B. So my slope is 1/3 for 17. Okay, and my y-intercept is a negative 5 over 3. 1/3, negative 5 over 3. Answer is D for 17. Alright, 18. Slope is undefined because x equals some number. And we already know anytime x equals a number, we have a vertical line. and vertical lines have slope that is undefined. Alright, so slope is undefined. Now, B is the other thing we need to find. Alright, so because we know slope is undefined, we know our answer choice is either A or it's D, because slope is undefined. But now we got to determine what is our B, our y-intercept. Alright, is B -1 or is there no y-intercept? Well, because it's a vertical line, right, if that's your x and y axis and it's saying x is -1, so that would be x is -1. So you have a line that's going through -1. It's not going to touch the y axis, so there will be no y-intercept. And so 18 will be A. Alright. In contrast, y equals some number. Anytime y equals a number or a constant, you have a horizontal line, and all horizontal lines have a slope of 0. Alright, so if y is 3, 1, 2, 3, and you draw your horizontal line through y as 3, alright, and you notice that it's touching the y-axis at 3. So slope is 0, and your y-intercept is 3. Slope is 0, b is 3. There you have it. Okay. Number 20. Decide whether the lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So here, all we're really looking to do is put the lines in slope-intercept form and then compare the slopes. Okay. So if we put the first one in slope-intercept form, we would have a -4y would equal 8x plus 3. Alright, and then we divide everything by -4, and we would get y equals a -2x, alright, minus 3/4. Then if we put the other one in slope-intercept form, the second equation, then you have -y equals 2x plus 12. And when I change my signs, because I can't have a -y, I want a positive y, so that means all my signs will change. And so I end up with this, y equals a -2x minus 12. So for 20, let's see, I notice that my first equation has a slope of -2. My second equation has a slope of -2. So when the slopes are the same in the two equations, your answer is the lines would be parallel to one another, because parallel lines have the same slope. Alright. Doing the same thing with number 21. Put the first equation into its proper form. So -15y would equal 3x, -3x plus 2. And then divide everything by -15. That give me a positive 1/5 x and a minus 2/15. Double check that. If 3, okay, yeah. And then putting this one in the form, -y would equal a positive 5x plus 8. Alright, but I can't have this negative on the y, so I change all my signs, and that gives me a -5x minus 8. Okay, so my slope here is positive 1/5. Alright, my slope here is a -5, so that means that when comparing our two slopes, if you flip this slope, it would be 5/1, which is the same as saying 5. This slope started off as positive, ended up as negative, and we said perpendicular lines, you flip the slope and change the sign, so 21 would be perpendicular. Okay. 22, write the equation of a line given the slope containing a given point. Write the equation in standard form. Alright. Oh, excuse me. Write the equation in slope-intercept form. Alright. So they want your answer in slope-intercept form, and you have that slope and that point. Okay, so you could go knowing the slope and the point. Alright, if I need this form, that means I need a value for m and I need a value for b. Fortunately, I'm given an m, alright, but I don't have a b, so I'm going to take my m and use this point to find a b. So I know this point consists of an x and a y. So I say y equals m, alright, y, this is my y, equals m, here's my m, x, alright, here's where I got my x from, plus b, y equals mx plus b, that's this form, and I'm trying to find b. So I get 8 equals a negative 32 plus b. Alright, so I add 32 to both sides, and that gives me 40 is b. So it's telling me b is 40. Okay, so now I know my b and I know my m, so my equation becomes y equals mx plus b. Alright, so in this case, this is problem number 22. The answer is A, 4x plus 40. Okay. Alright, 23. Doing the same thing. Have my slope, have my point. So I have an m, and I have an x and a y. Alright, so but in this case, instead of plugging straight into the y equals mx plus b, I'll do this one another way. I have a point and I have a slope, so I'm going to plug into the point slope equation, which is this. Alright, point slope equation. Alright, so point slope equation says now this is x1 and this is y1. So I have y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Alright, and it's in point slope form, but I need it in slope intercept form because the instructions told me they want the answer in y equals mx plus b form, which is slope intercept equation or form. Okay, so to do that, I take my point slope and convert it by distributing my slope through the x minus x2 part. So that leaves me y minus 4 equals a negative 7 over 8 x plus 14 over 8. Alright, and the 14 over 8 reduces to, what, 2 goes into that 7, 2 goes into that 4. So now I really have y minus 4 equals negative 7 over 8x plus 7 over 4. I need to add 4 and add 4. Trying to add 4 to a fraction, well, I need my 4 to have a 4 in the denominator. Right now it's like saying 4 over 1. I need it to be something over 4 so I can combine it with this 7 over 4. So that ends up being 16 over 4. So 4 over 1 becomes 16 over 4. So now I can combine these. So 7 plus 16 gives me 23 over 4. Alright, so y equals negative 7/8 x plus 23 over 4. There's my y equals mx plus b equation, slope intercept form. So for number 23, alright, my answer is B. Here we go. Negative 7 over 8x plus 23 over 4. Okay. Write an equation in standard form for the line graph. Number 24, we're taking this graph, using it to come up with a standard form equation. Well, I know I have a y-intercept of 1, 2, 3, 4 above 5, so that's 9, or 1 less than 10. Alright, so I know my y-intercept, that point right there, is 0, 9. And that's the same as saying B. Alright, now to get from that point to a second point means I would come down 2, so that means it would be a negative 2, and then from there I'd go over 1. I'd go over 1, and that'd be a positive 1. So slope is rise, I went down 2, over run, which is a positive 1. So slope is a negative 2. Alright, so I have my B, I have my M. Okay, so my slope-intercept equation would be y equals mx plus b. Now I need to get this in standard form, so I would add 2x to both sides. 2x plus y is 9. Alright, and let's see what we have. For 24, 2x plus y is 9. There it is. Okay. Okay, 25. Doing the same thing. Just a repeat of the same thing. I have a point right here at y equals negative 5, so there's my B. Okay. And from here to get to this second point that was given, I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I go up 8. That puts me right here. Up 8. And then I go over 1. I go over 1. So my slope is rise, up 8, over run, over 1, which is just 8. So there's my slope. And I already said my B is negative 5. Alright, so I have an M and a B, so y equals mx, and there's my B. Take this, convert it to standard form. Negative 8x plus y equals a negative 5. Alright, is that an option? No. We know in standard form we like the x term to be positive. So if I multiply everything by negative 1, it changes all my signs and gives me this. So for number 25, we have 8x minus y equals 5. There you go. Alright. 26. Find the equation of a line. Writing it in standard form. It's just this time we're not given a graphical representation. Pulling the information from what is given, we have a slope and we have a point. So we can plug that into our point slope equation. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Here's my m. Alright, here's my x1 and my y1. So when I plug it into point slope, here I'll write it over here, I end up with y minus a negative 2 equals m times x minus a negative 3. Alright, so there's my point slope form, but I need it in standard form. So I'll turn point slope into slope intercept by multiplying that and that. So that gives me 2x plus 6. Subtract the 2 from both sides. Y equals 2x plus 4. That's slope intercept form now. Take this, convert it to standard form. Subtract 2x from both sides. Negative 2x plus y equals 4. Alright, is that an option for number 26? We see that it is, and it's option C. Okay. Alright. 27. Doing the same thing. We have a point and a y-intercept now. Alright, so we have a M and a B. Okay, so y equals M X plus B. There's our M and a B. So it's already in slope-intercept form. Now I need it in standard form. Standard form says we don't like fractions. We like all integer coefficients. So I get rid of that fraction right there by multiplying everything by the common denominator, which in this case is the 3. So I multiply everything by 3. 3 times y is 3y. 3 times a negative 1/3 would just be a negative 1. Still have my x plus 3 times 8, which is 24. Alright, add x to both sides. And I end up with x plus 3y equals 24. Alright, so 27, x plus 3y equals 24. C is the answer. Okay. Now, 28. First we have 2 points now. So first we have to find our slope. And that's our y2 minus y1. So I have x1, y1, x2, y2. So y2 minus y1 gives me a negative 8 on the top. Alright, x2 minus x1, negative 1. So m equals 8. So now I have an m and a point and a slope. So I can do what I did now for number 27, given a point and a slope. Excuse me, I can't do what I did for 27. I have to do it like the problems before that. Take my point and slope, and I can plug it in the point-slope equation. And I'm going to use this as my point. So y minus y1, using that number right there, equals m times x minus x1. Alright, so I get y plus 3 equals 8x. Alright, because 8 times x is 8x, 8 times 0 is 0. Then if you subtract 3 from both sides, you have y equals 8x minus 3. Alright, so that's slope-intercept form. Put it in standard form, it becomes negative 8x plus y equals negative 3. If that's not an option, change this negative x to a positive x by multiplying everything by negative 1. And that gives you 8x minus y equals 3. So number 28, the answer is C. 8x minus y equals 3. 29's work the same way. y2 minus y1. Alright, minus a negative is like saying plus. So that's going to give me a negative 15. In the top, that 10 minus the 5 in the bottom. So slope is a negative 3. Alright, so I know a slope, have a point. So I'm going to use this for my point, this for my slope. Y minus y1. So that's going to be like saying plus 6 equals m x minus x1, which is the 5 right here. The negative 3 gets multiplied. So y plus 6, negative 3x plus 15. Subtract 6, y equals a negative 3x. And what's that? Plus 9. Add 3x to both sides. 3x plus y equals 9. So for number 29, 3x plus y equals 9. The answer is B, 30. I have a slope and I have a point. Anytime slope equals 0, that tells me that I have a horizontal line because slope is 0, which tells me y equals some constant, y equals some number. So I know it's got to be either b or c. And the reason I know it's going to be c is because the point that is given says my y is -9. So my horizontal line means that I have to go through y is -9. So if this is my x-axis, y-axis, y equals -9 will be down here somewhere. And that means this point would be somewhere on this line. Okay. So 30, the answer is C, y equals -9. 31, undefined slope. So that tells me I have a vertical line and that x equals some constant or some number. So for 31, I know my answer has to either be C or D. And because my point says my x is a -6, then there you have it. I know it's D. Okay. Parallel perpendicular. I need a slope from this to get a parallel slope. Alright, so I need to put this in y equals mx plus b form. So that gives me 8y equals a -9x plus 8. Alright, because I subtract 9x from both sides. Right? That's how I get this. Divide everything by 8. That gives me a -9 over 8x plus 1 when I divide everything by 8. So now I have a slope, which is -9 over 8. Once I know my slope, if I need something parallel to that, then that means my new slope is going to be the same, and I have a point. Okay? So I have a point, 4, 4, and I have a slope, -9 over 8. So plug in the point slope form. Y minus y1 equals m 9 over 8 negative x minus x1, which is 4. Okay. Y minus 4 equals -9 over 8 x plus 36 over 8. Alright. Here, let me erase some of this stuff. Give ourselves some room to operate. Okay. Alright, so I'm actually going to take from here and go back up. So y minus 4 equals -9 over 8 x plus, let's say, 4 goes into 36 9 times, 4 goes into 8 2 times. Alright, all I did was reduce my b, or reduce 9 over the 36 over 8. Now add 4 and add 4. This 4 has turned into a fraction with a 2 in the bottom. So 4 is the same as saying 8 over 2. 4 is the same as saying 8 over 2. So I have a 9 over 2 combined with an 8 over 2. And that gives me 17 over 2. So y equals -9 over 8x plus 17 over 2. Okay. Alright, let's see here. So now, gotta get it in standard form. Standard form doesn't like fractions, it likes all integer coefficients, so I multiply everything by the common denominator, which in this case, multiply everything by 8. That gives me an 8y equals -9x plus 8 divided by the 2 right here. 8 divided by the 2 leaves a 4, so then I say 4 times 17, which gives me 68. Alright, now I bring my x over with my y. So 9x plus 8y equals 68 is the standard form. And so for number 32, is it? 9x plus 8y equals 68. 9x plus 8y is 68. There's your answer, C. Okay, D is perpendicular. Okay, so for D, let's erase some of this stuff. Give some room to work. Alright. So for number 33, D, now we're talking perpendicular. So we need to find the slope in this equation by putting it in y equals mx plus b form. So I end up with a negative 4y equals a negative 3x plus 3. Because I subtract 3x from both sides to get the y by itself. Divide everything by a negative 4. Y equals positive 3 over 4x. Because a negative 3 divided by a negative 4 is a positive 3 over 4. And now 3 divided by a negative 4 is a minus 3 over 4. So now I have slope-intercept form. Alright, but all I care about is the slope. So I found my slope to be 3/4. But I want a slope that's perpendicular to it. So that means my new slope, instead of 3 over 4, is going to be, my new slope is going to be, flip it and change the sign. So my new slope is going to be a negative 4/3 because I flipped the 3 over 4 and changed the sign. So I have a slope, I have a point, so y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. Alright, my y1 comes from here, x1 comes from here. Change this into slope-intercept form by distributing. Alright, and so I have y minus 5 equals a negative 4 over 3x plus 4, add 5, y equals negative 4 over 3x plus 9. That's in slope-intercept form, but I need standard form. Can't have fractions, so I multiply everything by 3 to get rid of the fraction. So that gives me 3y equals negative 4x plus 27, add 4x, so that leaves 4x plus 3y equals 27. Number 33, 4x plus 3y equals 27. D is your answer. Alright, now to the systems. 34. Okay, so if I'm solving the system by graphing, I need to graph both lines. I need to graph the first line, which says x would be 2 and y would be 2. Alright, so it would be something like that. Alright, and then my second equation, if I graphed it, I'd have, based on graphing it using intercepts, I have x is a negative 10 for my x-intercept. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, 10. So a negative 10 would be here. And my y would be a positive 5, which would be here. And so if I graph those, I have a line that looks like that. Alright, so those two cross right here at this point, which ends up being -2, 4. So the solution to this system would be -2, 4. Okay, so that would be 34. So let's move on to 35. Alright, 35. Still solving by graphing. Okay, so if I graph the first equation using my intercepts, since it's in standard form, x would equal 5. So I can make a point at x equals 5. Y would equal 1 using my intercepts again. So best way for me to do this, I guess, would be try to draw a line.
Hey, did the guy sit some boxes
Okay, and then the next would be this here. Solving this, I'm going to use slope-intercept form here. So end up with, and then I divide by -9 and get that. So first point will be at y is a +1, and from there I'd go up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 9. Alright, up 4 over 9 would be about right here. When you make that line, something like that. And although it's not perfect, what you should find is that your point that they have in common, that they intersect at, is right here, and that point is 0, 1. Alright, this number 36, I'll put it in slope-intercept form, so I'll subtract 2x, and I'll do the same for the second one. Subtract 2x, so for the top equation I end up with y equals -2x plus 5. For the bottom equation I end up with y equals -2x plus 2. Notice that the slopes are the same, so when you have same slopes, that means the lines are parallel. Alright, and we know parallel lines have no solution because they will never touch each other. So these lines are parallel. Then we know the answer would be no solution. Alright, I'm not going to go through actually graphing them. We should be able to graph the lines by now. Okay, solving the system. I know y equals this, so I'm going to use substitution. Take that, plug it in right here. So now I have x plus y equals 3. Alright, so that tells me that 1x minus 2x is a negative x equals 3, so x equals a -3. Alright, so that tells me it's either here or here if x is a -3. I know x is a -3, so I take that, plug it in right there, and a -3 times a -2 tells me y is 6. So the answer would be -3, +6. -3, +6. So my answer to number 37 should be D, 38. This is set up in substitution form. X is 4y. So where x is, I'm going to put 4y right there. So 3x plus 2y equals 14. So that gives me a 12y plus 2y equals 14. 14y, 12 plus 2 is 14y equals 14, y equals 1. Alright, if y equals 1, I can now take that, plug that in right there for x, because y is 1. 4 times 1 is just 4, so x would be 4. So now I know 4, 1 would be my point. And so 38 would be A. Moving on. $39. Okay, 39 is set up for elimination. So I want to multiply the top equation by a negative 3. So my y's will be able to cancel. So I end up getting a negative 9x here. I end up with a negative 3y equals, and that gives me a positive, what is that, 63. Alright, so negative 9x, and this is all gone now. So negative 9x plus 4x is a negative 5x. The y's cancel. 63 minus 38 would be, what is that, 13 is a 5. It's 25. Alright. So x would be negative 5. So I know what my x is. Alright, so if x is negative 5, really that says that my answer choice has to be A for 39, but we'll go ahead and do it anyway. So now I want to plug negative 5 in to one of my initial equations. Okay. Alright, so I'm plugging negative 5 in for my initial equation right there, because x is negative 5. So that would give me 3 times negative 5 plus y equals a negative 21. Okay, so again, x is negative 5. So 3 times negative 5 plus y equals negative 21. I'm plugging into this initial equation. So negative 15 plus y equals negative 21 plus 15 plus 15. Y equals, what is that going to be? Negative 6, right? So there's the answer, A. X would be negative 5, y would be negative 6. Number 40. Let's multiply this equation by 7. Multiply this equation by 3 to get my x's to cancel. So that gives me a negative 21x plus 49y equals 63. This gives me a positive 21x plus 9y equals 111. Alright, these cancel. 49 and 9. That gives me 58y. And I have a 174. Divide both sides by 58. And so that's going to be 3. Okay. 4y, so y is 3. So I can take that, plug it in to an initial equation. So if y is 3, I have a negative 3x plus 7y equals 9. Negative 3x plus 21 equals 9. Minus 21 minus 21. Negative 3x equals, that would be a negative 12. Negative 3. Negative 3. X equals 4. Alright, so for number 40, x is 4, y is 3. There you go. Alright, 41. Cancel my x's by, let's say I want to multiply top equation by 3. So that will give me a negative 3x minus 27y equals negative 21. So I replace this equation with this equation up here. X and x cancel. Y and y cancel. So on the left side of the equal sign, everything cancels, which leaves me a 0. Now over here on the right side of the equal sign, I have a negative 21 plus 8, which is a negative, what is that, 13. Alright, so a negative 13. 0 does not equal a negative 13. That's false. So anytime you have a false and your variables cancel, a false statement left after your variables cancel, no solution. So there's no solution right there. Answer choice C. And then the last problem, 42. Let's say we do divide this equation by 2. Dividing everything here by 2 would give me y equals 5 minus 3x. And if I put this in the same form, I would have y equals a negative 3x and a positive 5. Alright, so I have a y and a y equals, alright, a positive 5 and a negative 3x. So this equation is the exact same as this equation. Alright, excuse me, put the x there. So when the two equations are the same, infinitely many solutions. And this is how they write infinitely many solutions, by writing both variables and then writing the equation. Alright, the equation that's common to them, which was this equation right here. They write it in standard form. There you go. So infinitely many solutions. So that completes the review for test 1, which is chapters 3 and 4. If at any time you have any questions, feel free to contact me either by phone or email. At this time, we will conclude this session.